The box delivered on a rainy Thursday. No label, no name, just one line scribbled on the lid. For what you forgot. Inside, a single photograph. Faded. 8 children smiling in front of a forest trailhead. She hadn't seen those faces since they vanished in 2004, all 8 of them. But what made her drop it wasn't the 8. It was the 9th. A face she'd never seen. Standing at the edge of the photo. Blurred. Watching. She had burned that original photo. With the families. With the sheriff. With prayers. But now it was here again. Unchanged. Except that one extra face. The timestamp in the corner. 3:13 p.m. The exact minute they stepped into Black Hollow. And were never seen again. She flipped the photo. A sentence had burned itself into the back. He was never part of the trip, but he came back anyway. Then the lights flickered. Her phone buzzed once. A notification. 9 faces tagged in your photo. But she hadn't taken a photo. Not in years. She opened her gallery. One image sat alone in a new folder. The same class photo. Except this time, they were standing in her driveway. The 8th child. Alina had her hand lifted, like she was waving, but not at the camera. At her. Then someone knocked. 3 soft taps. She looked through the peephole, but there was no one there. Just wet footprints. 9 sets. The new folder was called Field Trip 03. No app had created it. No app could open it. But every time she tried to delete it, it reappeared. Stronger. Sharper. Inside were 9 photos. Same pose, same kids. But in each, the background changed. The trees grew closer, darker, tighter. By the last image, the kids stood in full shadow. She tapped the 9th child's face. His eyes blinked. Just once. The screen buzzed in her hand. The power went out. And then the audio file began to play on its own. A child's voice whispered, "They stayed too long, so I stayed longer." Static. Then breathing. Then a new line. "You let them go." She staggered back. Her kitchen light flickered back on. On the floor, muddy footprints. 9 again. Leading from the front door to her table. Then, stopping. One chair had moved. Pulled out slightly. On the seat, her old school ID. She hadn't seen it in years, but it was warm, like it had been carried. She turned the ID over. The back was scratched, repeatedly. One word, over and over. Remember. She ran upstairs. Locked the door, but her phone buzzed again. A notification. You've been added to the group. Field trip. No members listed. No messages. Just one pinned post. Pack a lunch. Bring one for him, too. She screamed when her printer turned on. It spat out another image, the same photo. But now, her adult self was standing in the background, watching. The next morning, she opened her front door. Her porch was dry, except for one thing. A sheet of paper pinned under a rock. An old permission slip. It had her name at the top. Dated 2004. Signed by her own hand. But she never went on that trip. She stayed back. Sick. She always blamed herself. At the bottom, someone had added a line in red crayon. Felix still needs yours. Felix. That name again. He wasn't one of the 8. He was the 9th, the one she didn't remember, the one who never should have been there. She searched her yearbook. No Felix. But when she flipped to the class photo page, a face had been added, blurred, faint. But there. His hand was on her shoulder. She called an old friend from the class. Asked about the trip. Her voice dropped. We don't talk about it, because we made it out. You weren't on that trip, she said, but your name was on the list. We all saw it. That night, her lights flickered. She checked her phone. A new text. No. Number. I waited at the tree line. You said you'd come. And outside her window, just beyond the yard, someone stood where the woods began, wearing a red jacket, just watching. She didn't sleep. At sunrise, she packed her car, drove to Black Hollow, 12 miles outside town. The road narrowed. Birds went quiet, like they remembered too. The sign was gone, just an old post. But she knew this place, knew it like a scar. The ground felt softer than it should, like someone had just walked here. At the edge of the woods, a child's backpack leaned against a stump, still zipped. The name tag read, Felix. She opened it. Inside, a drawing. 9 stick figures. 1 circled in red. Hers. She stepped into the trees. Her watch buzzed. 3:13 p.m. She hadn't noticed the time, but her legs kept moving, like someone else remembered the way. Half a mile in, she found it. The fire ring. Old. Overgrown. But warm. Still warm. As if something just sat here. Still sitting. Pinned to a tree with a pencil. Another photo. The same one. Only this time, Felix was the only one smiling. A faint wind circled her. It didn't push her coat. It whispered. Like a breath through cloth. Like someone breathing behind her teeth. She turned and saw no one. But the trees had bent slightly, all leaning in the same direction, all pointing deeper. And beneath her boot, something clicked. She stepped back. It was a Polaroid camera, fully loaded. She snapped a photo. The print slid out. Blank at first. Then shapes. 8 children. Same clearing. All looking at the camera. All frozen mid-step. But behind them, a 9th shadow. She took another. This time of the trees. When it developed, words had appeared in the branches. Don't leave him again. She dropped the camera. Picked up something else. A tape recorder. Buried under pine needles. Pressed play. Static. Then her own voice. I'm sorry, Felix. I didn't mean to leave you. She'd never said those words. Not out loud. Not ever. But it was her voice. Clear. Like a confession made under sleep. Another voice followed. Soft. It's okay. I waited. I always do. Then a third voice. Not a child's. Not human. It spoke one word. Return. The tape rewound on its own. Played again. Only this time, the final voice said her name, and the tree beside her had a new carving. fresh, sap still dripping. Her name, and next to it, Field Trip 2024. She ran, but the trees bent again. This time, they followed. She made it to a ranger station near the trailhead. Empty, dusty, but locked from the inside, like someone meant to stay hidden. Inside, a map of the forest, but hand-drawn. Trails shifted. Dead ends marked with spirals. The word Felix written beside all of them. On the wall, names carved. Her classmates, all 8, and hers scratched deeper than the rest. But hers had been crossed out. Someone had added, "Too late." She searched the drawers, old compasses, lanterns, and one file folder labeled Unlisted Participant. No photo, just a page. Felix M. arrived without record, left without permission. She stepped into the back room, found an old projector, plugged in. When it lit up, it showed the class photo, slowly zooming in on her. Then it flicked to video, shaky footage, a bus driving into the woods, the children waving. Then the camera turned, showing her reflection in the glass, smiling. She collapsed. She wasn't supposed to be on that trip. But the forest remembered something different, something she had never told anyone. She blacked out. Woke hours later. On her wrist, a new wristband, like a field trip tag. It read, Returnee. The ranger station was darker now, the projector still looping. But now it showed only Felix, his mouth opening, eyes locked. On her, and on the wall behind him, new words appeared. One left, one owes, one lied. Outside, it was night, but her watch still read 3:13 p.m. The sun hadn't moved. The wind now carried laughter. Not cruel. Just hollow. Distant. She followed the map from the ranger station. Every turn felt familiar. The trail narrowed, then widened, then looped, until she came back to the fire circle. This time there was smoke, real smoke, and a lunchbox, unopened. Inside, her name, her handwriting, her sandwich. She never packed that. She didn't go. She didn't go. She kept saying it. But the forest didn't care. The trees parted slightly. A clearing ahead. And in it, all 8 backpacks. Perfectly placed. Unzipped. Empty. A 9th one now sat in the center. Marked Felix. A note inside. Thank you for remembering. The wind stilled. No sound. Then one snap. A twig. She turned, and 9 children stood just inside the tree line, all waiting. They didn't move, didn't speak. But one held out a paper, a photo, same image. But this time, her eyes were gone. She screamed. They faded. But the photo burned itself to ash in her hand. The trees behind her whispered, "Stay." And her footprints, once deep, began to fade behind her. She wandered deeper, aimless, lost. The forest didn't. Loop now, it pulsed. Branches swayed inward. Shadows bent like arms. The ground hummed beneath her boots. She found a tree wider than the rest. Black bark. No leaves. Something was carved deep into its trunk. I never left. She pressed her hand to the bark. It felt warm, like breath. Then she heard it, a heartbeat, deep inside the wood. Then a voice, not loud, not angry, just sad. You were supposed to stay with me. She backed away, but the tree split open. Not broken, opened, like it had ribs. Inside, old clothes, red jackets, faded shoes, and one lanyard. Her name, her photo, but her face scratched out with red ink. She whispered, "Felix, I'm sorry." And the tree pulsed once. The wind responded. Then finish the trip. Branches behind her bent downward, forming a path, lit by flickering lights, like candles that never burned down. She walked forward, because there was no more turning back. Not when her name had been added. Not when she was the one who left him behind. And ahead, she saw the bus again. But now, all the windows had shadows inside. She stepped closer. The bus was old, but it hadn't rusted. Its tires were sunken, but clean. The number 17 was carved into the front windshield with fingernails. The door hissed open. Not loud, like it had expected her. A breeze passed her shoulder, and for a moment she swore someone whispered, "Welcome back." She entered. Every seat had something left behind. A shoe, a crayon, a name tag. But no dust, no decay. Like they'd just stood and stepped off. Seat 9 was different. Torn, burned. A child's sketch laid across it. Stick figures, a tree, and a dark shape standing behind them all. She moved to the front. The mirror reflected the empty aisle, until it didn't. 9 shadows sat behind her, silent, staring forward. Her breath fogged the mirror. Words appeared in the condensation. "You left me behind." The radio crackled to life. A soft voice read names. Hers came last. Then silence. Then seat filled. Departure ready. She tried to leave. The door wouldn't open. The engine rumbled once. The lights flickered. The trees outside moved, not with wind, but with purpose. One child appeared outside. Red jacket, pale skin. He raised a hand, then opened his mouth. No scream, just the sound of a cassette rewinding. And on the windshield, one phrase appeared in fog. "Next stop, where you forgot him." The engine roared once, then silence. Then everything went dark. Not blackout dark, but absence. Like the sun had blinked out, and no one told the world. She blinked, and the bus was moving. Slowly. But the wheels didn't turn. The forest moved instead, sliding past the windows like it was rewinding time. Each tree looked more familiar, until she saw herself. Younger. Laughing. Running into the trail, holding someone's hand. But she didn't remember that. She wasn't supposed to have gone. Yet there she was, leading them into Black Hollow. And behind her, Felix. Her younger self looked back at him, smiled, then whispered something into his ear. He nodded and stepped off the trail. Then she kept walking, never looked back. The bus jolted. Her reflection cracked in the mirror. and her name tag fell off her chest. A new one replaced it. Printed in red ink. Leader. The voice returned on the radio. Field trip ended at 3:13 p.m. One was never marked present. One stayed behind. One chose the path. The windows fogged again. 9 phrases written backwards. She wiped one clear. You weren't sick. You lied. She screamed. But the bus kept driving, and the 9th seat was warm now. The bus stopped. In front of it, a tree older than the rest. Black bark. Wide trunk. At its base, 9 shoes arranged in a circle. The door opened. She stepped out. The forest was silent, like it was waiting to breathe. One branch curled toward her, pointing down. She knelt. Beneath the dirt, a lunchbox. Inside, a photo. Same class. But she wasn't in it this time. Felix was front and center. The back read, "He led them in. You walked away. We followed the wrong one." She stood, looked at the tree. It had names carved around the trunk, 8 in a circle. Hers crossed out. Felix's deeper than the rest. The tree pulsed, a heartbeat. Then it opened, like a mouth, or a doorway. Inside, a hallway made of roots and memory. She hesitated, then stepped in. Each step showed flashes, lunchboxes, songs, whispers, laughter. Then silence. Sharp silence. A soft voice followed her. You were the oldest. You promised to wait. You said you'd come back. The hallway ended in a wooden door, her name carved in it. Underneath, return complete. Exit closed. She reached for the handle. It turned on its own. Then the lights behind her died. The room was round, walls covered in photographs. Some burned, some scratched, all showing the same place, the clearing. Always the same 9 children. In the center, a chair. On it, a cassette player, playing a loop of her own voice. I'll come back for you. I swear. She whispered, I never said that. And the tape replied, but you did. A Polaroid hung from the ceiling. Same photo. But each time she blinked, one face disappeared, until only Felix remained. He was smiling. Not cruel, just tired. Behind him, the trees leaned forward, bent inward, as if listening. A soft breeze swept through the room, carried dust, and her own handwriting on the walls. Don't forget him. Don't forget me. A drawer opened. Inside, her backpack from that year. Still full, still hers, with one note tucked in. Return receipt not signed. She collapsed, cried, apologized. Her tears hit the floor, and the lights above flared once, and a new voice whispered, then stay. The cassette ejected, replaced itself with a new tape, unlabeled. It clicked in. Her voice again, but older, clear, saying one thing. Let me take his place. The lights turned red. The IBPO walls groaned. The photos reshuffled themselves. New ones now. Ones she didn't remember taking. But In every frame, she stood with Felix. One photo showed her in the woods, holding his hand, smiling. Behind them, no trees, just smoke. She backed away, tripped over the chair, hit the ground. The cassette recorder slid across the room and stopped at the base of the tree. A hatch opened in the floor. A spiral staircase led down. Lights flickered in sequence. The final one was green. She descended. Walls around her turned to mirrors. Each reflected a younger version of herself. Each said something she never remembered saying. At the bottom, another bus seat. Just one. Facing a screen. On it, a looping video. Felix, sitting alone. Waiting. She sat. The seat strapped her in. The video stopped. He turned toward the camera, smiled, said, "You're late." She whispered, "I know," and her reflection blinked. Slowly. From the screen, a door opened. Behind her, wind surged in, and the screen displayed two choices: stay or forget. She reached, chose stay, and the room sighed, like it had waited a very long time. Above ground, the bus's engine roared. No key, no driver, just ignition. The headlights flicked on. The fog rolled forward. One by one, 8 red jackets sat up in their seats. Shadows, where faces should be, but all facing forward now. The 9th seat filled itself. Gently, no pressure, just presence. The bus door closed. Air hissed like breath. The wheels turned. No one watched it leave, but the trees leaned aside. Let it pass. A path clearing that hadn't been there in years. In the back of the bus, a small candle burned. No wax, just flame, flickering in rhythm. 313, 313, 313. No one drove, no one steered, but it knew where to go. And in the reflection of the windshield, 9 faces looked out, the last one finally smiling. At the end of the trail, it stopped, just for a second, then turned left, the direction no one ever takes. And as the wheels faded into mist, a single paper blew back into the forest. All present, all accounted. Back at home, her fridge magnet clicked off. The class photo it held fluttered to the ground. She picked it up and froze. 9 kids now. No more blur. No more shadow. Every name labeled. Even Felix. Even hers. And behind them, no forest. Just sky. Clear. Bright. Final. The timestamp still read 313. But it no longer mattered. The moment had closed. The frame had sealed. She slid it back under the magnet, but it stayed warm in her hand, like the memory wasn't quite done holding on. In the corner of the photo, someone had added one line in blue pen. "Thank you for coming back." That night, her house was still, peaceful. But outside, the trees bent in a different direction, away from the house. The wind didn't whisper. It hummed, soft, final. And on her porch, a note under a rock. The handwriting now familiar. Trip complete. Class dismissed. And for the first time in 20 years, she slept without dreaming of the woods. The next day, hikers reported something strange. The Black Hollow trailhead sign had reappeared, brand new, not installed, just returned. But the trail beyond it? Gone, overgrown, as if nature had sealed it for good. One ranger took a photo of the new sign. When he looked at it later, 9 shadows stood behind the wood. Just silhouettes, just watching. The photo corrupted itself, then deleted. His phone wouldn't restart for days. No one mentioned the missing students again. No new memorials. No anniversaries. Like the town finally exhaled. But every March 13th, 9 candles appeared outside the old school. Always lit. Always warm. No one claimed them. A janitor once tried to throw them away. That night, he dreamed of a bus that never stopped driving. He never touched them again. And each year, someone leaves a new class photo at the trailhead. With no names, just one word. Present. And though the trail is gone, the trees still lean, just slightly, toward the road. Years later, a boy moved into her old house. Curious, quiet. He found a box in the attic, labeled Field Trip. Inside, one photo, 9 kids. He asked his parents who they were. They shrugged. Some kids from the past, probably local. But the boy noticed something strange. One kid in the photo had his exact face. Same eyes, same hair, same mole on his cheek. And that kid stood in the middle. He brought it to school, showed his teacher. She turned pale, asked where he got it. He said, "It was just here." That night, he had a dream. A bus pulled up to the end of his street. The doors opened, empty, waiting. In the dream, he heard someone say, "One stayed behind to guide the next." He woke up with dirt on his shoes, and a red jacket draped over his chair, and in his closet, one paper pinned to the wall. Field Trip, 2044. The boy wore the red jacket to school. It was old but clean, not a tear or stain. Still smelled faintly of pine and firewood. His classmates teased him, said it looked like something from a time capsule, but he didn't care. He felt safe in it, like it remembered more than he did. At recess, he reached into the pocket, pulled out a photo, one he hadn't seen before. 9 kids, 1 teacher, and 1 boy scribbled out in thick black ink. He turned the photo over. On the back, leader marked, transfer scheduled. That night, his dreams returned. The bus again. This time, it didn't stop. It opened mid-road, and the forest leaned into the street. In his dream, he stepped on. No driver, just rows of empty seats, each one with a jacket folded neatly across it. A tape recorder played in the front seat. His voice, but younger, repeated one line. He still needs someone to remember the way. He woke up holding the photo. It hadn't been there when he fell asleep. He asked his mom about the jacket. She swore she never bought it, had never seen it before, said it didn't fit in any donation box either. She tried to throw it away, but the next day it was back on his bed, clean, folded, waiting. He returned to the woods behind his neighborhood. Not Black Hollow. But something about the trail felt familiar. like the trees had been watching him longer than he realized. 2 blocks in, he found it, a perfect circle of stones, cold now, but intact, and in the center, a single matchbook, with a name written inside, Felix. He struck 1 match. It didn't light, but the air warmed, just slightly. The trees shifted. 1 branch tapped his shoulder gently, like a warning or a greeting. He sat in the circle, waited. No animals, no wind, only that slow pressure in the air, like someone exhaling beneath the soil. He took out the photo, held it in the fire ring, and whispered, "Who were you?" A whisper returned, not out loud, but inside his head. "I'm who stayed when they forgot. I'm who burned for them." He stood, backed away. The matchbook now glowed slightly. A spiral had appeared on its cover. Faint, ink-like, not drawn, grown. He dropped it, but the spiral burned into the stone beneath. Permanent, etched. The circle was marked again. He ran home, but the wind followed. A soft hum carried his name. And behind him, the trees leaned inward again. Back in his room, the jacket was warm, and on the floor, his shoes were muddy. Though he hadn't stepped in mud all day, he returned to school the next day. The hallway felt longer. The lights buzzed more, and the wall beside Locker 17 hummed faintly when he walked past. He pressed his ear to the bricks, heard laughter, not current, not from anyone in school, just children, faint, distant, looping. He told a teacher. They laughed, said it was old wiring. But that night he returned after dark, brought a flashlight and a hammer. He knocked, found a hollow spot, dug gently. Behind the wall, an envelope, sealed in wax, with the field trip photo inside. A new version. 9 children. All clear, all smiling, and him now standing in the middle. On the back, final participant acknowledged, all roles filled, 1 path remains. He gasped, dropped it. The photo floated gently to the floor, landed upright, and from the ceiling a light flickered. Morse code. He translated it, letter by letter. It spelled 1 word, come. He took the jacket out of his bag. It was no longer red, just dark, like it had absorbed something it wouldn't return. And when he slipped it on, the whispering wall went silent. 2 days later, a flyer appeared in his locker. No teacher claimed it. No event on the school calendar. Just a date and time. Field trip. March 13th, 3:13 p.m. He showed it to his friends. They shrugged, said they hadn't seen anything, but a few asked if they could come. He told them, "It's not for you." That night, he couldn't sleep. The jacket glowed slightly under his bed. When he touched it, the lining whispered, "You remember. That's why you lead." He opened his window, looked out. The school bus was parked outside. No driver, no engine, no sound. Just waiting. He blinked. It was gone. No tracks, no light, but he swore it had been there. And in his hand, a ticket stub. On it, 1 seat reserved, 1 truth owed. Ride at 3:13. He kept it in his backpack. All day, and at exactly 3:12 on March 13th, the announcement came over the loudspeaker. Final call. Field trip participants to bus lane 17. No one else reacted, like they hadn't heard it. He stood, walked out. No one stopped him. No one looked. The bus was there. Same one. Clean. Empty. But this time, the 9th seat had his name stitched into it. He boarded. The doors closed, and the bus drove into the mist, not on a road, but on memory. The bus windows showed nothing at first, just gray. Then outlines, trees. Not Black Hollow, but it remembered the shape. Every trunk leaned inward. Every branch curved into spirals. The driver's seat was still empty, but the wheel turned itself. The pedals pressed down without feet. He sat still, hands in his lap. The air was thick, not with smoke, not with fog, but with presence. Outside, candles burned along the path, floating in the air, leading deeper. No wind moved them, but they flickered like they were breathing. He reached for the window. It was warm, vibrating gently, a heartbeat in the glass. Then the trees opened. A clearing. 9 seats carved into the ground. 1 jacket on each. No kids. Just the feeling of where they'd once been. The bus stopped. The door opened. The voice said nothing, but the air pulled him forward, gently, like an invitation, not a command. He stepped out. The ground was soft, springy, alive. Beneath him, the spiral symbol glowed, not carved, grown. He walked to the center. A stone tablet stood there. On it, "You were the first. You are the last." He whispered, "I'm ready." And the ground didn't shake. It breathed. The circle filled with light, not blinding, just soft. Shapes appeared, one by one. 8 children, familiar, all wearing red jackets. They looked at him, smiled, but didn't speak. Just waited, like they'd been frozen in that moment, waiting for the 9th. He took his place. The jackets glowed faintly. A soft hum rose in the air. It felt like a song, one he didn't know, but somehow remembered. Felix stepped forward. Not younger, not older, just as he had been. Face now clear, eyes tired, but relieved. He reached out, touched the boy's shoulder. "You brought them home," Felix said. The spiral on the ground pulsed. The trees leaned back. Light rose upward, and the jackets lifted from their seats, folding themselves gently. No one cried. No one feared. Just peace. Like a bell ringing for the last time. Felix stepped into the spiral, vanished like mist. The others followed, one by one, until the boy stood alone again. Then he turned, walked to the bus. But before he boarded, he looked back once, smiled, and whispered, "Class dismissed." The bus drove slow, not through roads, but through clouds, through memory, through whatever existed after promises were kept. The seats were empty now, all but one, his. The window showed a reflection, not his face, but all 9, fading slowly, peacefully. The radio crackled. One final recording. Trip complete, all present, departure sealed. The bus stopped, not at a school, not at a house. Just a quiet hill, overlooking the woods. He stepped off, the jacket left on his seat. And as he walked away, the bus dissolved, light folding into the ground. He stood, let the wind wrap around him. It felt warm, familiar, and behind him the spiral faded into grass. He looked at his hands. They held nothing now, just the memory of holding on. And then he heard them. Faint laughter in the trees, echoes, not stuck, just home. He smiled and walked into the light. A week later, hikers found a new sign at the old trailhead. Clean wood, fresh nails. It read simply, "All returned." Beside it, 9 candles burned, each steady, none melted. A photo sat beneath them. 9 children, 1 guide. And behind them, the forest smiled. No one claimed the photo. But no one removed it either. The wind didn't whisper that day. It hummed, and for the first time in 20 years, the trees leaned outward. No one took the trail again. But everyone who saw it felt something settle, like a door had quietly closed. And that night, every porch light flickered once at 3:13 a.m., just once, then never again. The local archive received an unmarked envelope. Inside, a journal page dated 2004. Handwritten, signed only, "He walked beside us. We just never saw his shadow." The handwriting matched no student, teacher, or parent, but the ink was still fresh. That day, the power at the records office cut out at exactly 3:13 p.m., only for 60 seconds, then returned. When it came back on, the trailhead map had changed. A new trail added, marked only "Return Route." One intern printed the map, but her printer glitched, printed the class photo instead. Her own face among the 9. She'd never seen those kids before, but one of them had her necklace, a gift she hadn't received yet. She turned the photo over. A typed message. "We needed one more guide." The candles on her desk all flickered out, unlit. She opened her desk drawer, found a spiral etched into the wood, and a note. "Field trip begins again. 2044." She didn't remember writing it, but the pen still lay beside it. Across town, a school custodian opened a forgotten supply closet. The key turned with effort. It hadn't moved in years. Inside, dust, old yearbooks, and a drawer carved with spirals. Locked, but warm. He pried it open, found 9 cassette tapes, each labeled with a student name. Except one. That one simply read, "Final." He played it. Static. Then a child's voice. "You're not lost. You're late." The light overhead flickered in time with the voice. A soft hum echoed under the words. A rhythm. 3-1-3. Then laughter. Then silence. Then a name whispered in his ear. His own name. He never told anyone. But the next morning, his desk had 9 photos stacked neatly. One for each child. One blank. He flipped the blank one. On the back, guide needed. Past remembered. Seat warmed. He quit that week. Said he needed to be closer to the trail. No one asked which trail. At a small-town museum, an exhibit opened. The Vanished Nine. No one knew who submitted the artifacts, but they arrived pre-boxed, labeled, clean. Visitors felt uneasy near it. One chair sat empty in the center, with a red jacket folded neatly on it. A child once sat there, just for fun. The lights went out. When they came back, the chair was empty again, but the jacket was warm. A note had appeared on the seat. Thank you for returning. The museum shut that wing, but every morning the chair was slightly moved, angled toward the door. At night, security footage showed flickers of movement, but only in frame 313. No alarms triggered, no cameras failed. But the hallway echoed, like wheels rolling over linoleum. One guard claimed he heard voices, children talking softly. Then one louder voice. You can't delay memory. It arrives anyway. He didn't return to work. Said he didn't want to be the 10th. He never explained what that meant. In a nearby town, a birth record was uncovered. A child named Felix. No last name, no family, no address. Just one date. March 13, 2004. The file had been sealed, classified under non-existent enrollments. A teacher who reviewed it found a note attached. Exists only when remembered. Please forget responsibly. That night, her classroom clock spun backwards, then stopped at 3:13. The next day, she found her desk drawer open. Inside, a field trip form, signed by her, for a Felix, dated 2044. She hadn't written it, but the signature matched perfectly. She taught the rest of the year in silence, never opened the drawer again. On her last day, she left one item behind, a Polaroid of the woods. 9 children, and in the background, herself. She never remembered taking that photo, but the forest in it still moved. In a small antique shop, someone bought a box of old items. Among them, a candle, never lit, still warm. Its wick curled inward. The owner lit it once. It burned cold. The flame bent toward the center. Then whispers began. Faint, layered. 9 voices, one clearer than the rest. We came back. He stayed. Now it's your turn. The flame flared. A shadow passed the window. But no one outside. The candle melted down into a spiral. He scooped the wax, found a key inside. No teeth, no lock, just one word engraved. Field trip. That night, he dreamed of a trail, a bus, a forest that leaned in his direction. He woke up with a class photo on his chest. 9 kids, 1 adult. Him. He never lit the candle again. But it still burned, only inward. And every time it pulsed, a new name appeared in the air. Until there were 10. On March 13, 2044, at 3:13 p.m., Black Hollow's trail opened again. Just for 13 minutes. The forest moved gently, welcoming, as if it recognized the moment. One child entered. Red jacket. No name. No parent. Just silence. He walked calmly, like he had done it before. He sat at the fire ring, lit one match. It flared. The forest sighed. From the trees, 8 more figures stepped out. Quiet, familiar, older, at peace. They stood in a circle, smiled, and waited for him to speak. He whispered, "It's done." The clearing glowed. Not bright, just right. Like the end of a very long lesson. And then they were gone. One breeze, one memory, one last breath. The town didn't speak of the Baag Trail anymore. But everyone felt lighter, as if a knot had finally been undone. The school bell rang softer. The air seemed clearer. But sometimes, late at night, a radio crackled on its own. Static. Then humming. Then a child's voice. "Thank you for remembering." And always, just before it shut off, the same timestamp. 3:13. The class photo never faded, never aged, still hung in the school office. No one questioned it. Some said it changed slightly every year. One smile wider, one tree missing. A janitor swore he saw it blink once. He turned the photo over. One new name had been added. His. He cleaned that hallway more carefully after that. Always nodded when he passed the picture. Because memory, once invited back, never truly leaves. On a forgotten clipboard in the faculty lounge, a new sign-in sheet appeared, dated 2045, labeled Chaperones. No one knew who put it there, but 10 lines were already filled in. One teacher laughed, signed her name. Next day, she found a Polaroid on her desk of a child she'd never met, holding her hand. She burned the sheet, but another replaced it. Always Keir. But the child in the photo began to appear in her dreams, just watching, not speaking. Until the dream when he whispered, "It's not fear, it's duty." The clipboard vanished, but she still saw it sometimes, reflected in windows. One time her reflection wasn't hers, just a red jacket, and eyes too old to be young. And from then on, she always left the lights on at 3:13. It always begins the same. A quiet forest. A trail that wasn't there yesterday. And one child who sees it before the others. He doesn't tell anyone, just follows. The air changes, gets thick, heavy with memory, familiar laughter, old footsteps. The fire ring is already lit, candles flickering, the stones warm. He steps in. A chair waits. So does the spiral, and so does the promise. To remember, to guide, to return. Because once a name enters the woods, it never leaves alone. He sits, whispers the names, all 9, all accounted, and then one more, his own. And the woods close behind him, not to trap, to welcome. Somewhere, a candle still burns, not on wax, not with fire, but in the space between forgetting and remembering. It hums softly, flickers when someone speaks a name they shouldn't know. It burns slow, inward, always inward, toward the name, carved at its center, Felix. And when it dims, just slightly, someone somewhere dreams of red jackets. They wake with dirt under their nails, a photo they don't own, and the whisper of wheels. No one ever sees the bus. But sometimes they hear it at 3:13, just outside their memory. And the trail, it never opens again. But it never quite closes, either. Because some promises aren't broken, just delayed. And memory, real memory, always finds a way back. Especially when the class photo still waits, with just one face missing.